I mean, I think I'm probably the first actor to have been f***ed up the ass by a lesbian with strap-on on TV. Come for me if I'm wrong. Hello, I'm Alan Cumming, and today I'll be looking back at some of the moments that have shaped me as an artist. This is Becoming Alan Cumming. Victor and Barry were a double act that I did with my friend Forbes Masson, and we started it in our first year of drama school, and that was in 1982. F*** me. And we became, within a couple of years, like huge in Scotland. This was the video for a single that came out in about 1987 or something. It's got such a special place in my heart. And it's also sort of surreal comedy that we wrote, and it was just us getting together and being a bit drunk or a bit stoned and making up silly stuff that made us howl with laughter. And then all of a sudden, the entire country thought it was hilarious too. And I think so often in showbiz life, people try to box you in or kind of pigeonhole you. And actually, what I learned very early on, which is a great lesson, is that something that was just so us and so weird and so Scottish and so different really connected. And so as a weird Scottish different person, I've just stayed in that lane. So this is Cabaret. This is when I did it in New York the first time at what that's called the Henry Miller's Theatre. See, that's such an early playbill. That was an incredible time. Everybody thinks that's me. It's not, that's not me. It's just someone who looks like me they used because it looks like me. I just didn't quite grasp what it was, the magnitude of it. I mean, it was a really great production, but it sort of entered the zeitgeist in a really incredible way that rarely happens and changed my life. I came to New York to do this and I never left. Still here. I'm still here. The MC is definitely bisexual. Yeah, I mean, in our production, anyway, he was absolutely, that was made very clear.
Who was the most memorable Sally Bowles that you worked with?
The most memorable Sally Bowles I worked, come on, that's like Sophie's choice. I couldn't possibly say. Of course, I have one, but I wouldn't, if I had a gun to my head, of course I would choose one, but I don't have a gun to my head today. Thank goodness.
Competition winners.
Spice World. And my favorite thing about this is that I have a chest wig. It was so itchy, the chest wig. I didn't like it. And I would take it off at lunchtime and then they would say, oh, Alan, I'd have to go into makeup like 10 minutes or 15 minutes before the end of lunch to get it stuck on again. So I used to just pretend to the hair people that I hadn't taken it off. So I would take it off myself and just like stick it back on. And as a consequence, in the course of the film, it goes up and down, the wig, the chest wig. And I just had such fun working with the girls. It was like a magical summer. And also I got an eyebrow piercing because the Spice Girls told me I should. I'm very easily led by cute girls, it seems. So this is the cover of Out magazine from November 1999, in which I pose naked, as you can see, naked as the day I was born. It's a funny thing when you become famous and you're also, your sexuality is quite fluid and people know you for having a relationship with someone. It was like every time I'd have sex with a boy, I'd think, oh, do I have to put a press release out? Anyway, so it got to the point where every interview became about my sexuality. And so eventually I just thought, I've got to do something about it because I felt ready and I actually was having a same-sex relationship. I wasn't just banging boys. I decided to talk to Out magazine and have a proper, nuanced conversation about it in a way where I felt I could control the narrative. And it did work. It was really good, actually. I felt like I was able to say how I felt and truly felt about my sexuality. And so that was good. The most hilarious thing is that Conan O'Brien had his show in New York at the time, and I used to go on it quite a lot. And he was obsessed with this magazine cover. He thought that my heel was one of my testicles. And I was like, no, Conan, it's just I have a high arch and that's my heel. But anyway, and I talk about this in my show that I do with Ari Shapiro from NPR. I tell this story. He says, excuse me, this may be a lot to ask, Alan, but do you have very veiny, hairy heels? And I say, no, Ari, I do not, but I do have very smooth, lean balls, if you must know. I don't. None of those things are true about my balls. Ready to move on?
The way our sainted mother.
Annie, there's Kristen Chenoweth. That was the first time we worked together. Rob Marshall directed this TV version of Annie. And Kathy Bates played Miss Hannigan. I played Rooster. Victor Garber played Daddy Warbucks. Audrey McDonald was in it. It was a really great cast. Can I tell you a dirty story about it? There was one night we were doing a sequence where it was sort of a big Steadicam shot. When you do a Steadicam shot, it's one big long shot. So if you screw it up, you have to start from the beginning again. And I kept screwing things up. And to sort of cheer everyone up, because it was late at night, and I said to Kathy Bates, I went, oh, but Kathy, everyone's so pleased with what, the studio's very happy with the way things are going. Mickey Mouse himself has sent a memo to say how pleased he is with all of us. And Kathy Bates said, Mickey Mouse can rim my butthole. And I went, Kathy Bates? She went, I will deny it forever. She will deny it. But she said it. Allegedly.
Me take a rub at children and swallowed up my sister.
But I didn't want any of that.
Spy Kids. I must watch this again. So cute. So many people, not just know me from this, but so many young adults, this is the thing that they talk to me about of all the things I've done. Because in a way, I'm a magical part of your childhood. There's a certain age group that when they come up to me, I know what they're going to say. I came on the set one day and there was a new camera assistant and he came on, he saw me, was like he was really freaked out. And he went, Alan, I just want to say, you touched me a lot when I was a little boy. And I said, never say that again. I know what you mean. And I'm very touched, but not in that way. But you must rephrase that.
Are Floop and Minion just roommates?
Oh, you think there's some homoerotic undertone between Floop and Minion? I didn't get that myself. But, who knows? Any port in a storm,
No, can do. Taping E.
Oh, 1:30.
MTV.
Oh, I had a busy year. Josie and the Pussycats. It was way ahead of its time. And I remember at the time thinking, this is fucking hilarious. Got such queer coding in it. And I really like that. I really like that it's become, it's found its audience. I have very blatant queer coding in most of the things I do, even when I'm playing a straight person. Because I am queer and I find the way I connect to an audience is through, myself and who I am. And also camp in its true sense is about having an understanding and a relationship with the audience and being, raising an eyebrow with them and asking them to understand something that is it is inherent, but not actually in necessarily what you're talking about. It's like, in fairy tales and where, the baddies are queer, or like in James Bond films where there's some sort of disability to the baddies. So there's all these sort of terrible connotations that their disability or their queerness made them evil. That, of course, I don't buy into. But I think there's a way to do archness and camp that makes baddies much more juicy.
I had to lose the dress, love.
Sex and the City. I did that when I was doing a show on Broadway. I think I was doing Design for a Living on Broadway. And I remember Patricia Fields came to my dressing room to do a fitting with me and tried on all these things. And I remember that she left and she'd left behind a shirt and I stole it. Well, I didn't steal it. I just didn't give it back. I like having catchphrases. I've had quite a few catchphrases over the years. This one is like, trot on, trot on, trot on. People say that to me quite a lot. Me likey, that's the other catchphrase. Yes, me likey. That's the one. Actually, that's a bigger one, isn't it, than trot on? I think I made that up, actually. But yeah, I like me likey. A lot of those iconic shows from that era, from like the early 2000s, late 90s, like Friends, like Sex and the City, actually have very dodgy tropes in them when you look back at them now. Racist things, very, mildly homophobic, but that was another time. It was a quarter of a century ago. I think the whole bisexuality is the last stop to gay town is a sort of a trope. It's often perpetuated by gay men who are very ashamed of their sexuality. And it can be anyone, it can be women as well, but I'm always shocked by that. And I think one of the things I most have an issue with about gay culture is the idea that when you enter it, you assume a uniform. I get it, you want to be part of the pack. It's comforting. But at the same time, I think what that does is it sort of closes you off to the possibility of experience. And I think a lot of gay men who were bisexual, perhaps, suddenly decide they're not going to do that anymore, and they kind of turn on it. Courage and the Cowardly Dog. I guess that must be me in the kilt, but I have no recollection of what is this again?
You played a character called Rumpled Kiltskin.
I have no recollection of this one. I honestly, I've been around the block a while and, a few times, and I've done lots of these animated things, but you do this, one afternoon and I never think about it again, never see it. I guess that's me with the funny teeth and the kilt. I don't think anyone's ever asked me about Courage and the Cowardly Dog. I don't think anyone, ever. I mean, I don't think even is it meant for children? X2, X-Men United. That was the official title. I had a horrible time making that film. Horrible. And it wasn't the makeup. I mean, the makeup was not pleasant. It's well documented what a fucking shit show it was and how miserable I was and many other people were. This is an iconic opening sequence of a superhero movie. I like the film very much. I really do. I'm very proud of it. And so now, 23 years later, it's all come round to me again. I'm playing this character again. And I have to say, it's a very sort of healing thing to do, to go back to a character after all these years and to do it in an environment that is much more conducive to having a good time. The L Word. I actually did this because they didn't put me into X3. Like, everyone thinks I turned it down. I didn't, because of the makeup. That's not true. I was supposed to be in it and had an option to be in it, and they ultimately didn't put me in it. And so instead I did the L Word. And it was such fun. And when people say to me, "Oh, Aaron, I saw you in the L Word," I always say, "Oh, you saw me getting fucked up the ass by a lesbian with a strap on?" And they always go, "Yeah." But it was very intense fake sex. And I was naked and she was wearing a strap on. I like the fact I think I'm probably the first actor to have been fucked up the ass by a lesbian with a strap on TV. Come for me if I'm wrong.
Windows. We do have the best view on Sunset Strip.
Burlesque. Oh yes, what was I called again? Alexis, yeah. It's funny, people are obsessed by that film. I don't think I've seen it all the way through. Isn't that terrible? I have a little bit of ill will about that film, actually, just because of the way there was a scene that was cut. So they bought the rights of the Frank Sinatra 1965 or 66 version of That's Life, with the Hammond organ. It's a really cute scene where we're getting ready for the night and the band boys start playing and I start dancing and singing. But then when the film came out, I was about to do press for it, and obviously everything they were asking me was about, "Ooh, how exciting, Frank Sinatra," and they cut that from the film and didn't tell me. I just thought it was shabby behaviour, and they could have given me a heads up. Next. Oh, Any Day Now. It's such a lovely film. It's about two people in the 70s who sort of become a couple. And as they're becoming a couple, this beautiful wee boy his name's Isaac, and he's got Down syndrome, and they try to adopt him because his mum's kind of a drug addict and goes to prison. And it's a beautiful film. I love doing films about queer life and queer stories that would otherwise not be told. And this is very much an example of that. And it's a heart-jerking, tear-wrenching thing. And I sing. I'm also a drag queen at the beginning, and that's the least successful part of the film. I'm not a very good drag queen. The thing about this film is that I didn't have, "Oh gosh, look how far we've come" feelings about it. I thought, actually, I don't know if that we have come that far still, because you try even today, well, especially today in Trump's America, but being a gay couple and adopting through the state system, I don't think that would be easy. I also don't buy into how lucky we are, how far we've come. As we can see, our rights could be taken away from us in an instant, and we've got to be vigilant, and we've got to, rally round. It's happening again. And every little bit we step forward, there's a backlash. Obviously, the backlash right now is so much about trans people, but it's clearly they're working their way along that acronym. I don't take anything for granted when it comes to queer people's rights. Instinct. Oh, it was this sort of, cop show, I guess. But what was incredible was, that character is the first ever leading character in a network drama in America to be gay. And this was 2017. And everyone's like, "Isn't it, hooray," again. Everyone's like, "Hooray, isn't that great?" I was like, not really. I mean, it's like, fuck, about bloody time. And then, guess what? It lasted a couple of seasons. it got cancelled. How many other network dramas have a leading gay character? I had a lovely husband who was 20 years younger than me. Nobody sort of said it. It's a bit slightly witty. He's so nice. He's called Dan. I see him sometimes. And to Grant, my husband, I'll say, you remember Dan? I ran into Dan. And he goes, Dan. I go, my husband. And he goes, oh yes, how is he? Michael, who was the showrunner, great. I loved it. I loved everything about it, apart from having to look cute every day. I think that's the thing when you're the lead in a sort of TV show. You're exhausted because the hours are nuts. Moving on.
Exactly.
So Schmigadoon was a thing on Apple. It's sort of like both a parody and a homage to musicals of different eras. So the first one was like about the 50s and 60s musicals. And then the second series is called Schmigadoon. And so they come back to the place, but now we're all in different we're in the 70s, sort of, you know, Cabaret, Chicago. Kristen Chenoweth, I worked with Kristen. And in the first one, she was a sort of a mean lady in the town, and I was the mayor who was gay. He was called Mayor Menlove. So there was a little bit of an Easter egg there. And then in the second one, I was sort of this Sweeney Todd character, and we sang such a hilarious song where we were talking about the fact we're going to, because it's the combination of Sweeney Todd and Annie, and we sang a song about making pies out of the orphans. So terrible. Often when we're together, we're playing these crazy people. Oh, and this got cancelled too after 2 seasons. That seems to be my lucky number. Traitors! Look what I'm wearing. So ridiculous. I think it's so hilarious that in this time in our history in America, a show that's really connected people and really been the big sort of, you know, number one, the water cooler show, is a show that has such a huge representation of queer people. It is a very queer show. I mean, look at me. Definitely doing femi, you know, androgyny sort of stuff. The whole style of it is theatrical and camp. And so I think it's a really fascinating thing that everyone is loving this show at a time when our government is actively trying to harm those people and that ethos and that sort of sensibility. But also that it shows me that people love queerness and they love queer people.
How does it feel winning 2 Emmys for serving cunts and being bisexual?
Pretty sweet. I mean, it was a bit like the Emmy thing was a bit bittersweet, obviously, because I toppled RuPaul. Because I won the host one week, and then I won for the show the next week. And I saw him at the second one, and I said, I am so sorry. Like that, genuinely, like I'd, you know, hurt him or something. And he just went, congratulations. I was like, oh my God. I mean, it's so funny. I don't really like the phrase serving. But if you know, sort of thing. And I just love playing this character. I think of him as a character. And I love the way that it has gone on this sort of crazy journey of, you know, the looks I give and the clothing and the sort of attitude I have. And I'm like this sort of real S&M-y sort of, you know, dominatrix style, you know, players. And this past year, I was like a cult leader. You know, I was like, followers away, as all these people. I think, when did I have followers? My loftiest goals for the Traitors are that the public of America will be so enthralled and propagandized by its sensibility and the queerness at its core that they will drop all their anti-trans and anti-queer hatred and will embrace us and give us back our rights, and kindness will, for the first time ever, dominate in American culture. Is that too much to ask for?
World peace.
Well, even American peace would be fine. Thank you for joining me on this little nostalgia ride. This has been Becoming with Alan Cumming.